Hello everyone, it's Varus, and in this video I'm going to give you a full update on Tropical Storm Debby, a look at some other factors that are playing into Debby's historic impact on the Southeast and its future, as well as a look at the nation's alerts, cool blast that's really going to take over for much of the eastern two-thirds of the US, and more in this video, so let's get right into it. So right now I have the national alerts pulled up. We do have a severe threat over here in the north central U.S. Severe thunderstorm watch and some warnings remain up. Heat advisories down here in the south central U.S. and many fire-related and heat-related indices in the desert southwest. Now, along the eastern seaboard, which is our main story for this video, we have many tropical related indices such as tropical storm warnings and tropical storm watches, as well as tornado watches. Mainly just tropical storm warnings really up. And again, tornado watches and storm surge watches and warnings as well as many flood watches, flash flood warnings, severe thunderstorms everywhere. So it's a lot of stuff going on, and a couple dense fog areas plotted on the map. So I'm actually going to zoom into one of the hotspot areas. Let's go down to around the Charleston area. Savannah just got impacted a lot. I don't think we do have the past rainfall, but I can show you guys that in a bit. I'll show you guys that in a bit. I'll try to pull it up for you guys. But either way, Savannah has been lashed with so much rain and continues to be lashed as Debby moves offshore. And actually, Debby moving very slowly, continuing to pull in tropical moisture into Savannah, causing those flood warnings for Savannah, Hinesville, into Georgia. So one of the areas that have been hit hard, Charleston currently getting hit hard, and it's going to continue to get hit hard. So let's actually take a look at the Eastern Pacific first. I do want to talk about two little systems, Tropical Storm Fabio and Tropical Storm Amelia, both at around, or actually Fabio weakens at a 50 mile per hour, Amelia is a 65 mile per hour tropical storm. An interesting phenomena happened with them as Fabio was somewhere over here and Amelia was over here, they actually kind of circled around each other a little bit, known as the Fujiwara effect, and they actually were influencing each other, and so Fabio actually moved north and west, and Amelia kind of drifted southward, and they got away from each other, but they're relatively close, and they did have a phenomenon, again, the Fujiwara effect happening, which is pretty cool. Luckily, or thankfully, no real impacts to any land masses. Now getting into, let's start with satellite loop of Debby. The reason I want to start with satellite loop is because Debby has officially moved offshore. Debby was so Debby actually took that landfall. Here, let me move my screen a little more down for you guys. So Debby right now is currently located right around here. Originally, Debby had made that landfall into Steinhatchee, Florida, as I was saying in the past few videos. But again, that's happened. And then it actually kind of went north a little. And then Debby actually kind of beelined eastward for the coast. We thought it was going to come off much earlier, but it did actually kind of go northeast. And then at this afternoon, it was right on that coast and officially has finally turned east and up and accelerated offshore. Now, Debby is slowing down, and the more Debby stays over water, there's a higher chance of intensification. Now, hot spot that people have been talking about, hot topic, is the sea surface temperatures. In the blue I'm about to mark here are cooler sea surface temperatures, which is kind of right along the coast of South Carolina, Georgia, and coast of the Florida, Atlantic coast of Florida, and that's because overall just those coastline waters and the influence of Debby is causing cooler temperatures there. Now, that's actually pretty, you can even extend this out, honestly, kind of like right in here. And that's affecting Debby as it's in the low 80s in terms of Fahrenheit, and that's barely enough to help a tropical storm to thrive. If Debby can get out further and more into these areas in the black, right here, I can even draw it in the hot pink. it's much more warmer. That's because of an influence called the Gulf Stream, bringing warm air from the Gulf and overall just warmer sea surface temperatures on a streamline of water right off, right outside of these cooler waters. So if Debby can tap into these warm waters out here, and if Debby can accelerate eastward slightly more, it'll have a much higher chance of strengthening and even get quicker strengthening if it does get more east. If it doesn't, then Debby will likely still strengthen a tad bit or stay the same strength as it curls in and makes a landfall. Right now, we're expecting somewhere in here. Could be Myrtle Beach for the northern solution, could be Charleston for the southern solution. Something right in between is definitely possible. So there is IR. Taking a look how it looks on radar, we have again the low out here ish, kind of right over here somewhere. Now we got the west side is actually very active, which is kind of surprising slightly because last time the west side was completely exposed of dry air. Dry air is still getting into the center of Debby, that's for sure. However, it is trying to battle against it. The steadier rains getting whiplash inland, Savannah having a little break, Charleston, Georgetown. However, rain bands will continue and steadier rain will pick up. But this is a very concerning area for lots of flooding and a heavy rain, so please be careful. As you can see, there's some flash flood warnings. For example, this area right here, including Orangeburg, South Carolina, Barnwell, South Carolina, and bordering Aiken, and just outside of it is Augusta, Georgia. So many issuances and flash flood warnings to come. So there it is. Here's Debby. Let's take a look at warnings, cones, and static images. Here is the cone as of 11 p.m. today, Eastern Standard Time. Expected to continue east, but then jog northwards into, again, right into between Charleston and Myrtle Beach before weakening into a depression and eventually becoming extratropical, losing its tropical characteristics because of cooler conditions. And it will affect many more states such as North Carolina, Virginia, basically the entire northeast and mid-Atlantic states. So please be careful. Main story remains the flash flooding and rain threat. Now we can take a look at the winds. The wind speed probabilities could extend up into areas of the mid-Atlantic, but overall just expect gusty winds. However, the only real time we're going to have to worry about these winds is once it makes its secondary landfall into South Carolina. Now, rainfall potential, this will kind of tell us what's to come and stuff like that. Savannah, only about 2 to 4 inches. You guys are almost done. I think, around 8 or so inches has fallen as of reports. Charleston, still a good ways to go, 6 to 8 inches. And Wilmington, North Carolina, still a big 12 to 16 inches to come. So, lots of North Carolina still prone to flooding, as well as areas of Myrtle Beach in South Carolina. And then as we continue up down the road into the northeast, swath of 4 to 6 inches and localized areas of 6 to 8 inches possible for lots of central and eastern Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, into central New York, and areas of New Hampshire and Vermont. So those are your rain forecast and kind of like the past totals. Flash flooding probabilities reflect this heavy rain. High risk for Charleston and Wilmington as lots of rain continues to be coming into those areas. Raleigh, as well, as it gets more inland, it will lash up some pretty heavy rain. So please be careful if you're in the high risk, and even in the moderate risk, some flash flooding is definitely possible, if not going on right now. Now, talking about the moderate risk up north, we have many populated areas: Philadelphia, New York, Wilkes-Barre, Albany, Burlington, some populated areas along the I-95 right over here. And so there's some Scranton as well. Areas you got to be careful over here with the moderate risk, as some flash flooding is definitely possible for those areas. Now getting into what Debby's conditions and what's to come overall. Let's refresh this just to see if there's any new location spot with Debby. So Debby right now, so here is a better representation of that Gulf Stream and those warmer temperatures. There's a stream right there. Okay, there's a stream right there. You have slightly cooler temperatures, not big cooler temperatures, but slightly cooler temperatures right in this area, right out Debby. That's kind of like, it's like 1 to 2 Celsius cooler. Debby right now is some favorable waters. it's gonna cross over these slightly cooler areas. Depending on how west or east Debby gets, if it can get all the way into these kind of darker reds over here, that's 30 Celsius. That's very favorable in terms of sea surface temperatures before it retrogrades back. Now, if it stays kind of more in this area, then it will likely have less of a chance of getting some more like rapid intensification. Now, something that is interesting, even if Debby gets over here and starts strengthening, given the location of landfall is somewhere in here, you see right off the coast. I'm gonna clear that out. I'm gonna lighten up the pen. So landfall is somewhere right here, right off the coast. Especially these lighter yellows. It's much cooler, and so as Debby approaches into the coast, we could actually have a period of slight weakening or maintaining strength as Debby gets closer to landfall, which is something I do want to keep it. I do want y'all to keep in mind, given the strength and intensity of Debby. Getting into other factors such as wind shear, moisture. Again, some dry air is infecting into Debby, but Debby is having a good moist shield on the western side is actually protecting kind of well from that. There is some shear for sure. However, Debby's also trying to protect from that, and so overall moisture, it's still a little bit of dry air and shear is still there. So overall, Debby is working in a slightly favorable environment as she is fighting off that dry air and she is fighting off some of that shear as well. So some slight strengthening cannot be ruled out with Debby. Lastly, getting into the nation's weather for the U.S. Lots of hype about what's to come in the 6 to 10 temperature outlook. Below average temperatures for the mid-Atlantic and Northeast. Getting into areas of kind of like the Southeast and Midwest. Some much needed relief after some very hot temperatures over there. Heat continues in the South Central and North Central U.S. And then you can take a look at Hawaii and Alaska over here as well. Precipitation wise, above average in the west, and then average in the east, and then below average in the south. 8 to 14 day, you still have those cooler temperatures lingering along the eastern seaboard. Above average dominates most of the country, and the precipitation above average mainly for the northern tier, and near normal or below for the south. So, and then we can get to 3 to 4 weeks too. Continues to show equal chances of possibly a trough setting up, which with cooler air towards the mid to late August timeframe. And precipitation stays above average along the eastern seaboard and Gulf coasts, given that tropical threat as the tropical systems and Atlantic season really starts to ramp up. So let's take a look at those temperatures, that cool blast coming in for the central eastern U.S. There it is, right there. I'm gonna use my black. Right there in the north central, starting to enter in and starting to head south and east. There you have it. And most of the central U.S. and it even gets down into almost to the Gulf Coast with below average temperatures, and it actually does get quite a bit south. And you see the eastern two-thirds just dominated with this cooler temperatures, really starting this weekend, I would say. Yeah, really starting this weekend and actually kind of trying to linger. It's not going to last long, but it's going to try to linger throughout the beginning of the work week, and it'll probably diminish by the middle of the work week, but however we still have these patchy cooler areas. So that's interesting, and then we'll just take it to the end of the model run. Heat kind of builds back in for most of the US. So there's your forecast. I hope you enjoyed. Try to keep it short as possible while also power packing with information. Please subscribe. Timestamps down below if you gotta skip to your part. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day.